Well, thank you all for coming today. There's no doubt that this has been a difficult year for our budget with a $278 million budget gap. We have seen with our prolonged decreases in our energy prices and, as I've been talking about for a long time, our online shopping and loss of sales tax revenue over the last many years. We've had a lot of discussion about how do we close the budget gap, how can we put recurring revenue into the baseline of the budget so that we don't continue to have these shortfalls year after year. And I appreciate the leadership of the House and Senate and both political parties listening to the discussion, because it is important that we have certainty in our revenue, in our budget, and certainty in how we run our state. We're too good of a state to continue to have these problems because of the structure of our budget. And so I appreciate all the hard work that's been done this year. I know it's not been easy. We had a lot of tough discussions on many different issues, but got a lot of great ideas that have come out of it. I am happy to say that we have been working over the last couple of weeks on how can we find a baseline, a recurring revenue, not one-time revenue, not moving money around from this pot to that pot and balancing the budget, but actually trying to put recurring revenue into the baseline of the budget. I have personally been meeting, certainly with the leadership of the House and the Senate. I've met with the Democrat Party, the leadership of their caucuses, and with various members of the Democrat Party. And I want to thank the Speaker and the Pro Tem and all the other political members of the Democrat Party for coming together with various ideas and proposals. But today, I am pleased to announce that the Speaker McCall, and Pro Tem Schultz has come together with their leadership teams to meet with me to announce that we have been able to come to an agreement on 3 different revenue issues, and there will be others that will be discussed during the legislative session that will help us put recurring revenue into the baseline of the budget. And something that I've been talking about for a couple of years that I think we need to adjust and put into our baseline is a cigarette tax. I know there was a vote recently on that issue, but we think we have found an agreement on it. The gas tax is something else that we have talked about. We're 48th and 49th in the nation, and the gas rates that we have in our state, we haven't adjusted those rates since the 1980s. Come to agreement on that. And also on the months that we have the 2% on the gross production tax, we have an announcement on it. There'll also be an announcement on a teacher pay plan that we want to give teachers, beginning with a pay raise for them. And as I mentioned, this is just the starting point of the baseline of recurring revenue. I have already signed into law $68 million for different revenue raising measures that has passed both the House and the Senate, and there are many other pieces of legislation that are currently working its way through the process. We basically have 3 more days this week, tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, for revenue measures to come before the House and the Senate, and then of course next week on Friday is the adjournment date. We've all been working very hard to hopefully, keep our fingers crossed, avoid having to have a special session, but even with this baseline amount, we still have a sizable gap to close within our budget so that we don't devastate core services for our state, such as education, public safety, corrections, health, human services, and certainly transportation. But there's still some more work that will have to be done on closing the budget gap and filling that hole. Now is the time for all of us to come together, both the House, the Senate, the Republicans, and Democrats, to bring the votes to the table. No more game playing, no more I'll do this if you do that. You know, there's been a lot of discussion about gross production tax and the Democrats saying we won't bring votes unless you do something about it. So we've put a plan on the table. There's been talk that we won't vote for this unless you give teachers a pay raise. There's some plans for that. So we have those things on the table. We've given things that our members in our Republican caucus want to see done. We've taken other things off the table. We put some of the Democrat ideas into this plan, and there are some things that are not on the table. But the end is that we have to get a budget done. We have to give our state some certainty that we will be able to fund core services in our state, fund education, fund public safety, transportation, corrections, health and human services, without devastating our state agencies. There will be some talk as we come to a further agreement on the use of some rainy day funds. As I mentioned, some other pieces of legislation that are moving through the process itself, but now is the time to get the budget done, or we will have to have a special session if we can't come to an agreement. But I think the public wants us to do our work. They know these aren't easy decisions. They know it's a tough time, but the people that I hear from say, fix these core services, get the money that we need. We sent you to do a job. We want you to make the tough votes, and they'll stand behind us if we do those things. Can't be done alone. Once again, with just the Republican Party, it's going to take some Democrat votes to make these things happen too. So I'll turn it over to the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you'd like to come forward and add your comments, and then Pro Tem Schultz.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This agreement today ensures, first and foremost, the priority of the House of Representatives that the first phase of a teacher pay raise will be implemented, and that the funding to fund core services for our state will remain intact. The House of Representatives is committed to ensuring that education, health care, corrections, transportation, and DHS are adequately funded. These have been the priorities of our caucus the entire session. In the House of Representatives, we are 101 members, currently at 98, going to 99 this evening. And it's worth noting that we have to have a bipartisan support in the House of Representatives. I'm committed to delivering the 75% required from our caucus to support this plan. I'm calling on our Democratic friends across the aisle in the House of Representatives to move forward and support this plan. Two of the three issues, core of this plan, are in the Restore Oklahoma plan offered by the Democratic minority in the House of Representatives. The fuel tax is not, and so we feel like this is a great compromise bill. The majority party, the Republicans in the House of Representatives, we are compromising on GPT, and we are compromising on the cigarette tax. We are giving those to the Democrats as they've requested in exchange for the fuel tax. And we call upon them to not do what's best for Democrats in the state of Oklahoma, what's best for Republicans in the state of Oklahoma, but what's best for Oklahomans. We are ready to move forward, bring this budget together in this session, and move the state of Oklahoma forward. Thank you all very much for your time today.
Well, it's obvious that as we gather in this room today, the construction and the work is going on in both inside and outside of the Capitol. Relish the year or years that outside project's done, and we could come into a Capitol that's not draped in tarps and having windows pulled out, but we will get there. Members, thank y'all for being here today. Sometimes we think that the budget's only worked on in May. That's not true. The budget's worked on 12 months every year. We're now already starting to talk about the 2019 budget, and certainly what we're doing here today in this revenue agreement has impact into that 2019 budget, 2020 budget, 2021 budget. It's been a priority of the Senate caucus was to have long-term vision, to come in and make fundamental changes to the way we govern, the way we budget, not looking 1 year or 2 years, one election cycle down the road, but look 10 and 20 years down the road, so that when the next group of leaders stand in front of you a decade from now, they will have a different picture, budget, path in front of them. What we're doing today does that. Not a one of us came up here to raise taxes. Not a one of us went out and campaigned and said, hey, we'll go raise taxes and we can't wait to get there. The gentleman will be sworn into the House tonight in a couple hours. Probably didn't go campaign to raise taxes. I was sworn into this chamber, into this body 11 years ago today, to the day and to the date. I didn't campaign to raise taxes, but I did campaign to make this state a better place, to leave it better than I found it. I'm nearing the end of my years of service in the Oklahoma State Senate. The agreement that we have today is a fundamental step that will move us in that direction. It's reoccurring revenue that doesn't add to the structural deficit that we've talked about in the past years. It will help patch this year's budget hole and the budget holes in years to come. It's a great plan. It's what happens when leaders come together and talk and work out their differences. And we have a great plan before us today that moves Oklahoma forward in a wonderful opportunity and a really good direction. Look forward to the support of members in both the House and the Senate and members of both the Republican and Democrat parties. Thank you for being here today. Thank you, Governor. Yep. It's up to you.
Okay. All right, any questions?
Governor, the minority leader is not part of this agreement. He's consistently said that he will not vote for a plan that doesn't include an increase in the gross production tax rate. Why aren't you negotiating with Leader Inman? He says that he's not been a part of these negotiations.
Well, he has been. I talked to him personally on the floor yesterday. I had him in my office at the beginning of session. I've had Minority Leader Sparks in my office. I've had the Democrat members in my office. I've met with them on the floor yesterday talking to them. I know these leaders have both met and talk all the time with the various members. And, you know, one of the things about negotiation, you can't keep moving the ball. You can't keep saying, if you do this, I'll do that, and then all of a sudden you do that, and then they change their mind and say, well, now we want this instead. There seems to be a moving ball within the leader's office itself. I'm not sure his caucus is there, but you know, there comes a point where you have to get a budget done, and it's not political games about running for governor.
But how is this not just trying to put pressure on him? He said consistently all session long his caucus will not support the cigarette tax without an increase in the gross production.
He's got it. It's what we just announced.
But this isn't an increase in the rate. This is just a reduction in the number of months. This won't
It's reduction in the number of months. That's right. Which increases the rate
that won't bring any money.
this year, but it will next year. Absolutely.
Speaker McCall, you said yesterday the gas tax was a poison pill. What has changed between now and yesterday?
What's changed yesterday is that we have a compromise deal. The gasoline tax has been something that the Democrats in our chamber have messaged that they will never be for unless they get GPT. GPT is in this deal, therefore fuel's going to be in this deal.
I don't understand how this is a compromise when Democrats are not at this negotiating table like today. We might be standing up here with you. How are you going to get this through the House at least? Because you can't pass it over here.
Well, there was actually some bipartisan support yesterday on the cigarette tax, and there has been in some of the JCAB bills too. So we're hoping that those that want to get a budget done, they don't want to play politics per se, because there has been give and take. Nobody's going to get 100% of what they want. I didn't get 100% of what I wanted. You didn't get 100% of what you wanted, and either did the Senate, and neither will the Democrat Party. But everybody has to come together and do what they can do to reach a final deal. And I think that's what the people of Oklahoma expect of us, is that we're going to provide solutions to the problems. We're going to get our work done. We're not going to get 100%, and we can't keep moving the ball around saying, well, if you don't do that this particular way, I'm holding my whole caucus and doing nothing.
What's the Republicans' reasoning for not raising the gross production tax to 5%?
It's a deal that has been negotiated that we are cutting back the time to when the 7% actually kicks in. So it's going from 36 months to 18 months. That's a pretty big give on that side.
However, you said some things are not on the table. Does that mean the gross increase in the rate is completely off the table for this session? And the gross production tax rate? Well, you said it, Governor, so I was asking.
I'm just telling you what's been reached.
When it comes to any aspect of gross production tax, there is nothing we can do that puts any money in this year's budget with gross production tax. We've heard time and time that with horizontal drilling, that most of those reserves are tapped within 36 months. That's why we're talking about moving the months from 36 to 18. You can raise the rate to 5%. That doesn't put any money in this year's budget. That's the misnomer about the conversation and the debate on GPT. Let there be no illusions that any change in GPT this year is going to put any money into this year's budget. Any change that we make is prospective. It goes forward. You cannot adjust rates retroactively and it be constitutional. That is an illegal act, and we are not going to do that.
Will all three of these measures that you brought up be in one bill, or are they gonna be in separate bills?
We are putting all of these into one measure. The teacher pay raise measure will be separately to ensure that we have no issues constitutionally with the laws of the land in terms of log rolling issue.
How is that not log rolling if you put all three in one bill? You put the cigarette tax, the gross production, and the gas in one bill? That's not log rolling.
Sean, it's my understanding that it's a single subject rule. All these subjects are about revenue raising.
However, you propose funding the teacher pay raise,
Could you repeat your question?
how do you propose to fund this teacher pay raise?
The $1,000 teacher pay raise this year is agreed upon by these principals, and I appreciate the support of the governor and the Senate Pro Tem, as this has been a caucus priority for the House of Representatives. It will require $52.5 million roughly to fund that. With the measures that we're talking about today, along with that which has already been passed, there's more than sufficient funds to fund that teacher pay raise.
So you're funding it through these three proposals?
We're funding it through all the measures that are being addressed this session. Thank you.
Is it fair to say that if this bill doesn't pass, that we're headed for a special session?
Well, I would hope we're not headed towards special session, but no question in the House of Representatives, there has to be a bipartisan approach to this. We've heard from our counterparts across the aisle in the House of Representatives on the things that they have wanted to see in a revenue-raising package. We are giving up the gross production tax to bring that vote, and we would expect to see it. That's what we've heard all session. The time has come to quit talking, and it's now time to act. The House Republicans are prepared to put this on the board by tomorrow, and we will deliver the supermajority number of our caucus to support this plan. And I sincerely hope and would expect that the Democratic caucus will do the same.
What's plan B though? You get to Friday and Democrats have already said they don't like this, we're not going to vote for it unless something happens and there changes the voting for it, I guess. What happens if we get to tomorrow or Friday without this bill passed? What's the plan?
Well, if this vote fails tomorrow in the House, it's not going to be because of Republicans. And we still have a number of measures that we passed out of our JCAB yesterday, of which some are controversial. But we will move forward to put a budget together. Without the vote tomorrow, there certainly will signal that there will be more cuts than anticipated and more cuts than we would like to see.
So what you're doing is you're telling them this is it, vote for it. And if you don't like it, too bad. Right? I mean, if the Democrats don't like the bill, are they obligated to vote for it?
Randy, there's got to be a bill put on the floor. And that's what we're doing here today is we took some of their ideas, some of our ideas, some things I don't like, some things they don't like. We put it all together. But somebody's got to start somewhere with recurring revenue, not just fixing one-time holes and moving this money around. So I appreciate the leadership coming together, listening, because there are a lot of different ideas out here, but Fact of the matter is, we gotta solve our budget crisis. We have to fund education, transportation, core services, health, human services, public safety. We have to get our job done. The 26th is the end of session.
House Republicans that are not.
Pardon me?
What about the 20 or so House Republicans that are not?
Well, we hope they'll step up.
Are they as guilty as the Democrats?
We hope they'll step up too and cast some hard votes and find solutions to problems.
Are they as guilty as the Democrats?
We will see.
Can I just say, excuse me, I'm sitting here, all due respect to all of the work that's been done here, but when we sit here, and I know the leadership that has been provided by the women.
Come on up here if you want to. Come on up here and stand with us. Come on up here.
Well, I don't need to do that.
That's all right.
Let
If you want to be part of the press conference, come on
Let me
up.
say this, please, and I hope, let me just say this. Because sitting here listening and knowing that we've never said anything about a gas tax. We never thought that would be the solution moving forward. For you to say that there's agreement, I don't know who the agreement was with. That's why we're here to look and hear what the plan is. What I do know is we have two women in charge of appropriations. I know they have not been fully included in the process, and God knows the truth here, right? So what we're saying is this. What we're saying is this. We said 5 to 7%. We're saying 7% gross production tax. We know that will bring in $500 million. What your plan is going to do, zero right now, maybe at the most 23 million 2 years down the road. And what we're saying is this is not the best way forward, but the most pressing issue here is that how do we come together and make Oklahoma better? And how do we tell Oklahomans what the truth is about the hard work that we have to do as we go up and down these hallways? And when I hear us saying you're going to have to do a cigarette tax, you're going to have to do a gas tax at the pump on the very people, yet when we say, why not go to the oil and gas companies, the big oil, small oil's on board. All we're saying is that it's only reasonable that we do 5 to 7% gross reduction tax. And why was that on the table? Because when you say, hey, we're doing it now, that's not what we're doing. When you say to us, come to the table, vote on, we're going to reduce the months, you're not bringing in.
Look, everything's about a compromise. And as I said, nobody gets 100% of what they want. That's not the way it works out here. In the years I've been here, and I have, by the way, these ladies have been in my office all day today. They're in my office all day yesterday, the day before. I've been meeting with them for weeks. So yes, they have been at the table because I wouldn't have any other way. So
I know they have. We're talking about over the months, right? Just like
they have been. They have been. They have been. They have been.
And that's okay.
They have been.
But bottom line is, what we were asking for was a gross reduction tax.
Let my buddy share address how
And that's not on the table. We don't think that's too much to ask for. We're putting the burden on the very folks that can least afford it. We're asking for the oil and gas industry to pay the same percent that your barbers, that your beauticians, your police officers, your teachers are paying. We don't think that's too much to ask. And I'm going to sit down. What I'm saying is that as I sit here and we talk about compromise and we talk about working together, you guys know we all want what's best for Oklahoma. So I don't think there should be any villains. I don't think there should be any boogeymen, but I think there should be men and women who are trying to do their best for Oklahoma. I think that's who we are, and I want that to be presented.
And that's what you see here.
Representative and everyone, I want to make it quite clear that even though I have not gotten my way perfectly in everything that has happened, that I have been included in all the negotiations. The speaker has been over backwards to make sure that the Senate has been included in what's been going on with them. Representative Osborne has been fantastic to work with. She has not gotten all of what she has wanted. I have not gotten everything I have wanted. The Democrats will not get everything that they want. But one thing I do know is that when it comes to gross production tax, I have no idea where these inflated numbers come from because I've looked at them. I've looked at what they will bring in for the state. The package that we have put together today will bring in the best revenue going forward at this time without penalizing drilling. And when I look at what we do in the state for the oil and gas industry, we want people to drill, right? That's where we get all of our money, through all the service businesses that come in, everything that's associated with drilling. The money our communities get whenever someone drills in their, anywhere near their town, that's a huge boon to our economy when we drill. We do not want to penalize drilling. But on the other hand, moving from 2% to 7% at 18 months instead of 36 does bring in a lot of money. It does not bring in that money now, nor would going to 7% right now would get us nothing at this time, except some of our small drillers that want to drill here would not drill here. And I've met personally with a lot of those drillers that have told me personally that they would leave the state and go to Texas. They couldn't drill here. The last thing I want to do is keep people from drilling in the state of Oklahoma.
So how much was with this package actually bill?
How much on these three measures? On these, like I said, these are just three measures for baseline recurring revenue. You still have many other measures that have come through JCAB in both the House and Senate, some to still come through at the time. I'm still pushing that we would have some adjustment in some of our sales tax exemptions. Hopefully we'll see some of that come through. That's one of the things I wanted that I hadn't seen come through yet, and I may not get any of it, but I want to get a budget deal done. But basically on the cigarette tax, it's estimated to bring in 124 million, guys, if I remember right. Gas tax would be 120.
215 on cigarette.
215 on cigarette, and 127, I think, million. All right, I can't read that with my glasses. 177 on the gas taxes. So that's a baseline recurring revenue. We already have 68 million that's on the board that I've already signed. There are many other measures that are still out there to look at apportionment of some of our transportation funds, rainy day funds, other things that are being considered, some of the sales taxes. So like I said, this is a baseline amount. There's still a lot of work to be done. It's going to take a lot of people are going to have to come together to make sure we get a budget done this Friday. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.